Welcome back to Split the Party. I'm your host, Steve Osmond, and today I have John Arford and Paul Nowak. We're going to be talking about board games, what we like in games, and what makes a good game. So, guys, there are tons of different games out. And in an earlier episode, I had mentioned that we're in what's largely considered the golden age of gaming. Lots of different mechanics, lots of different styles of play. What can a game do? What kind of a mechanic can it have in it to really attract your interest? What do you guys love in games?
I like games that that I can think strategically in, things that I can plan my turns ahead of time. Games where when other people are doing things, I can be doing something, but not necessarily actively like changing the state of the board.
Yeah, so you like to test your strategy against another person. And Paul?
And offering choices. Somebody once pointed out to me that playing a game against a computer, against artificial intelligence, or pure chance, like rolling dice, isn't a game, it's a puzzle. You're trying to solve a situation. I like games where the choices matter. You have several choices, several significant choices, not things that are just tacked on, you know, thematic, how you're going to do it, but actually things that will change the course of the game for you and the other players.
And I personally, I really like games that respond to me. I like games, for instance, in deck building. Legendary Deck Builder is one of my favorite deck building games because it is a game that is actively trying to kill me. The game itself is trying to beat me and I have to work against it. I'm working with the other players to do that, but I'm acting against the game. I like games like that where I'm not only interacting with the other people, but this product was so well thought out that it is taking action against me on every turn and making things more difficult, making me think ahead, not just against or with the other players, but also against the game.
Right. And it's not solvable because it's constantly changing as well. There's that element of chance.
There's always a little bit of element of chance. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the game's strategy is. So you have to have sort of a fluid strategy that you're playing. So that being said, so we've talked about a couple of our favorite things about games. What is your favorite game, John?
My favorite game is Sentinels of the Multiverse. It's a completely cooperative game in which you take on the role of a team of superheroes trying to take down a single or team of supervillains.
Yeah.
Each character in the game has a different mechanic. A lot of people like to compare it to like World Games and Magic the Gathering because each character has their own different strategy, but you're all working together. So like no two games are the same. I love how you can you plan out turns, like you do this on your turn, you do this on your turn, and then when it gets to my turn, I can do these things. I love games that allow you to do that kind of thing, especially cooperative games.
Yeah, and that particular game, it's we've all played Sentinels.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic game because everybody, first of all, the replayability is amazing. There's so many with all the sets. There's so many heroes and villains and environments available. And you can play a different person every time, or you can find that one person like, hey, are we going to play? Yeah, can I please play Tachyon? I really love Tachyon. All right, you can play Tachyon. We'll play these guys, and that's your go-to guy, and because you like the style of play, because each hero has their own way that they feel, you know, and it makes for a really fantastic game.
Yeah.
Now, Paul, I put you on the spot earlier, and I asked you what your favorite game was, and I didn't mean to give you a stumper, but it was a little hard because you've played a lot of games, and there are a lot of games out there. So instead, I'm going to talk about the fact you developed a game called Uncle Chestnut's
Table Guide.
Table Guide. Yeah.
Yes.
So give us a little bit about the process of actually creating what is actually a really great game. I love it.
Okay. Uncle Chestnut's Table Guide is similar to Chinese checkers, and you're trying to get from one side of the board to the other. Similarity kind of stops there though, because you use dice as your playing pieces. And while you can plan out your move of how the pieces are going to go, that like chess, they have different shapes. So swords move diagonally, books move orthogonally. When you jump over a piece, yours or your opponent, you have to pick up the die, roll it, and put it back, which is changing how it moves. So you can't plan too far ahead. Unlike chess, some people can see 20 moves ahead, and that's a terrific advantage. And why computers can start beating humans at chess. But when you add the random element and all those choices and things into it, then you've got a very different game from those classics of chess and Chinese checkers. You know, and I personally don't like abstract strategy games that are pure strategy. I know they're very popular to some people, but I like some element of chance to it that mixes it up.
Because it does make it feel like, whether it's active or not, the game is acting against, there is a force that is acting against you that is making you overcome something.
Right.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us back to what we were saying about good mechanics in games earlier, is having a game where you get to plot out your strategy and this is what I'm going to do, but there's this little hitch in everything here. This could go wrong or could go right. I don't know how it's going to end up. So I have to plan knowing that things might not go exactly according to plan here or here.
And deck building games are a great example of that because
Yes.
you can plan your turn out ahead of time. You know what cards you're going to play. But in most deck building games, you don't necessarily know what you're going to be able to purchase on your turn, or things could come up that change the cards in your hand. We play a lot of DC Deck Builder in the store, and that's a perfect example of that kind of thing. Because it's like, okay, well, I know I have 7 power in my hand, and Lobo's there right now, but he's not going to stick around.
I bet he doesn't make it around the table to me, but man, that would be cool.
Yeah, and you know, when that's as far as the chance goes, I think that's where I draw the line. Because once you get beyond that level of random, it's not fun. It's not a strategy anymore. Now it's just, you know, you're killing time.
Yeah, you don't feel that you're playing the game so much as you feel that the game is playing itself, and you're just the one moving the pieces around. And that's the problem with some other games. I've heard people use Monopoly as an example. You don't always feel that you're taking relevant action or making relevant choices so much as the game is just sort of playing itself. You're just the one throwing the dice on the table, and then you're enacting everything. The game is playing itself, and that's why they put choices like this in good games.
Well, in fact, there's an older game, Talisman, that's kind of got a revival. It's Fantasy Flight's reprinted it. They made an app, and it's on Steam even. And it kind of added the simple element of when you roll the die, you can choose, are you going left or right? And maybe it's going to be horrible things happen if you go this way, and awesome, great things happen if you go that way. But at least you had a choice instead of rolling and moving on a linear track.
Just adding little things like that, just taking the random chance and tempering it with relevant decision so that you feel that you're still playing a strategic game. You're still playing a game where you are the one in the most control of your destiny. Well, I think that's probably all we're going to have for today, guys, because otherwise we're going to sit here and talk about games we love forever. So why don't we call it here and we'll go play one of those games. That's going to be it for us for today. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Dual Bus Design, SoundG Entertainment, and Excelsior Games and Comics, and I'll see you out there in the Nerdverse.